Evening. No, that probably got edited. Hmm. Hello, y'all. Um. So we have this crime problem everybody's talking about. Um, in the states mostly, but we have it in Canada as well. Um, I was just listening to Matt Walsh talk about it. I do like that guy. Anyhow, he's talking about prison reform. We shouldn't even have a prison. We don't need that. Um, there's just really simple solutions to every crime problem in our society. Um, First one is that we pay for schooling. We pay for every school child to compulsory do gun training throughout their career. So you do a little gun training in elementary school so that you understand a weapon. And if it's around you, you're not going to shoot your buddy. You understand how powerful it is and all that stuff. And then um, junior high, you do another course, another set of courses with more safety and more about operations of the gun itself. And then in high school, you do a very advanced course where you learn all about shooting, using a gun, and using a gun in an emergency situation. And then everybody can use a gun. So then you make it really fucking easy for everybody to carry a gun. And yeah, you're going to put guns in the hands of criminals. But guess what? Guns are already in the fucking hands of criminals. So now you've put guns in the hands of good people. So when criminals act up, they get 15 bullets from every direction. Or at least 15 guns pointed at them from every direction. You know, you walk into a restaurant, you say, "Everybody, give me your wallets." And everybody pulls a gun out and says, "No, you give us your freaking wallet and gun. And lay down on the floor until the cops get here." And yes, you still need cops. But you won't need a lot. And you wouldn't. Traffic police could be a whole separate thing. Totally different than the actual police. So you call in the actual police. And they just come, gather the guy up. You have like a temporary jail where he can stay for the week. And then once a week, you do your spankings, right? So first offense, you get a smack on the ass, bare ass, from one of them big dudes that do those slap in the face competitions with each other. And you see them like just knocking guys out, and they're literally with the open hand slap, and they slap the guy, and he's just like poof, he's gone. And that's how you win. If you can, if your buddy stays on his feet or whatever, I think you get to smack him back. Anyhow, one of them dudes comes in, and you get a bare ass spanking right in town square, in front of all your friends, in front of all your family, in front of all the cops and all the judges and all the people, right? And in that situation, you wouldn't even need a judge, right? Anyway, so you get your spanking, whack. Second offense, you get a bosun from a ship. And I know there's guys out there that are trained, and if there ain't, you fucking train them. Who can work that whip perfect and really lash off some skin on every strike. So, second offense, you get one lash. That's going to leave a mark on you for the rest of your life now. You're tattooed as a criminal for life. You're not going to jail. There is no fucking jail. There was the little 5-day jail. Now you're back out on the street. You don't want to go through a third offense, because a third offense is 10 lashings. So you're lucky to be alive at the end of that. Your back's just, there's all the skin's filleted off. There isn't skin. And I can't imagine the pain of getting hit in the same spot twice. And even the spank, even the first offense spank, you'd be days not sitting on your ass. Pain, limping, wondering, and you know, the tough guys, you might be able to not limp, but you'd wanna, right? And so whatever. And it would be embarrassing as fuck. And then we'd save all that money in tax. Because we're not putting criminals into jail and feeding them and closing and housing and heating and all that shit, and then arguing about, oh, is it humane? Is it not humane? Is that? Now, with a fourth offense, you just kill the guy. If you're going to come through all of that and offend again, there's no hope for you. Sorry. But gas chamber or something. Obviously, there would have to be still court and all that shit, and juries and all that to keep everything fair. And you'd still need jail for all of that stuff. So you'd have guys in like a jail for like I say, the week or maybe a month, waiting to go through the court and then to your sentence. And now, you know, you could maybe avoid that first spanking a little or something here or there, but or even not go so drastic on the first one. Sure, you know, you could put a fourth step in there where the person gets, you know, just like a normal spanking from a fucking dude, or that, you know, that would be your minor's offense, or like traffic offenses or something like that. Rather, don't even give the guy a fine. You know, you were speeding, you're caught speeding, I got all this evidence, you're going to have to go to court. When you're done at court, the judge will tell you who's spanking your ass and when. And, you know, and then everybody gets to go to there on Saturday, and we all get to watch these guys get spanked, and girls or whatever, or whipped or lashed or killed. And you witness that shit as a kid, and chances are you're not going to want to go break the law. Simple. Especially as the laws become more reasonable, like marijuana, things like that. Like, just come on, that's stupid. What, you know, making that illegal. If somebody wants to hurt themselves, that's fine. Go hurt yourself. Now, better situation on top of that would still stick with the compulsory gun certificates through schooling, but make it so that it's not public school. I would, with any power, with any sense, any leader that I would vote for, would say, let's abolish this school system and privatize it and lower people's taxes dramatically, especially getting rid of prison and that. And all the guys that are in prison currently, well, they just start pulling them out and whipping them. You know, depending on how many offenses you have, you're going to get a good whipping. You know, you might get to the second offense. Nobody go to a third offense immediately. Mostly nobody. There's probably some guys in there that would have to go right to a fourth offense, and you just have to gas them the fuck out. Or, alternatively, let them go get shot in the streets. And then when it comes time for the court case of that, you just look at, the judge could just look at who it was and say, okay, case dismissed. Right? But reforming our prisons, making them worse, I understand that thought process or whatever, but I just think that this would nip it in the bud. Now, again, anyone I would vote for wouldn't say this. They would say, this is going to be that. Yeah, sure. Like those punishments, that's all great. But as a real solution, let's try to improves learn to talk. I think I just had a stroke. Let's try to improve everybody's life. If you could make it so that everybody's lifestyle, whatever, was a little more affordable and happy and fulfilling, then there wouldn't be as many criminals. There's a lot of guys out there who are criminals just because it's hard to get a break and improperly educated and trained, and it's a fairly easy life to learn. And then on top of that, if you end up going to jail in our society, I wouldn't want to go there. But I know a ton of guys, especially guys who are like homeless or whatever, doing couch surfing or living at their mom's, whatever, anything like that. They just go there for the winter, purposefully. And then it's just free room and board and food and exercise equipment and there's all kinds of perks to that shit. And now, again, there's a lot of guys who couldn't, me included. But guys who've done any amount of time, they don't give a shit. And once you have that record and all that shit, that kind of fucking follows you around. Where in my situation, in that scenario I described, let's say you're a shop owner or whatever, and you hire a guy, and you're not sure about him. You could say, yeah, let me see your back or whatever to people in the interview. But really, you could just go on faith that no matter this guy, we need to weed out the criminals in our society, The only way for me to do that is for me to hire this guy, give him a chance, give him some rope, let him hang himself, and otherwise he could be a really good guy. And if he's a criminal before and he's got some marks on his back, well, maybe he's learned his lesson this time. He's, depending on how many marks are back there, if there's one mark, then the next set of marks he knows is going to fucking be brutal. Way worse than the spanking. And way worse than the one whip mark. So he knows that this is going to be fucked. And so he might... And if he's got 11 marks, well, he knows that if he fucks up again, he's gone. Lights out. Game over. So... mostly you could just take the chance on him. Certain crimes, I guess. Maybe mark a pedophile's face and a fucking murderer hand or something, so that people can see that, and so that a pedophile looks more like a monster to a child. And you'd be able to pick out the murderers. Some psychopath. Just a thought. I think that we would straighten out our society quick. Look what's happening in El Salvador, right? Like he was saying, they've taken a lot of they had to get rid of the guys with these wrong mindsets that are already in the society but they've put them into these prisons. Now, prisons are horrible, but they got to keep them in there forever. No. And I know a lot of those guys are tough, and you'd have to just get them 4 times and then kill them. Hard to get them 4 times. All that stuff. So, hard to get there, maybe. Excuse me, but once you're there, it would work well. With people actually in the prison, I guess you'd have to, in order to close them down, you got to do something with all those guys. So, you could easily come up with some torturous shit that you could do to them, depending on their level of crime. A lot of them would just get their spanking and released. A lot of them would just get released for drug crimes, depending on the drug. And then a lot of them would maybe get their spanking and their first whipping. Who knows, right? And, if you're way up there, but you're not all the way, you don't want to take them all the way to the 10, like I say. You get the spanking and then the one whip. Or just the one whip so that they're marked. I don't know. Whatever. Seems drastic. I realize that it's like, whoa, fuck, that's crazy. I get that, but then again, it's not, because with most people, just seeing that shit, they'd never fucking be criminals. And then the next jump on that would be the first spanking, right? Now, there would be people who would get a hate on for their spanker. And then keep going and get in trouble and end up whipped. But I don't know. It's draconian how you break a fucking, not even anything. You wouldn't want to do that to your animals. They'd hate you. But again, given the choice myself, just to educate people better. See, if you didn't think evolution was real, if you knew that evolution was the theory of it raining on rocks for millions of years and then a lightning storm or something to add the energy, but then that energy would also would have killed it, especially in an oxygen environment. So it had to happen in a non-oxygen environment, but then as soon as the life form was made, it needs oxygen. And then when you put it in water, which was the solution, apparently, to all these problems, when they put it into water, because they tried to make this in a lab, the molecules, the male and female, separated from one another. They weren't attracted to each other, and they couldn't get to each other. They were forced apart. And then they would need something to eat, and even if they were born as a self-replicating organism, which they weren't, but let's say they were, you still got to find shit to eat, and cannibalism isn't going to work right away. So then now you got multiple things evolving in that soup all at the same time in order for there to be food there. And then death on death on death on death on death for millions and more years before we get to us. So that death created man. But the Bible says the complete opposite of that, and says that through sin, man created death. It was through our sins that death had to be made and given dominion. There was no death until Adam sinned. So, complete opposite theories. You can't combine the two like all these Christians do. They're like, wow, I like this bit, but I don't really like that bit, but I do really like that bit. It's all or nothing. The Bible says that over and over. And like I said, it's complete opposites. So you can't combine the two because they're so far apart. Can't even think of an analogy, but it's easy to see that they're totally different, and that one's from Satan and one's from God. right? So it's when you're combining them, you're grabbing Satan's Christians. When you guys do this, you're grabbing Satan's religion and God's religion and mixing them together to make your own religion. And then saying, well, no, I'm a Christian. It's just that science says blah, blah, whatever. Science says blah, blah, space and blah, blah, millions of years and blah, blah, all this other shit. Have you ever fucking looked into why does science say that? Like, what evidence does science have to think that? What has led them to believe all of these things, right? And then who did they come from? And like Lucy and all that shit you learned, missing links, they were all fraudulent, proven fraudulent shortly after they were discovered, right? But you never hear about that. Some of them were proven fraudulent like in the 70s, and they're still being taught now. They won't take it out of the textbooks, even though it's a law to take it out of the textbooks. So the solution to our societal problems isn't in prison reform. And you can't reform a dying school system from a corrupt government. That doesn't work. You need to nub down the corrupt government to what it's supposed to have been originally. Get rid of all the fucking other shit. And especially the school system. Privatize the school system. And then there's going to be competition. Competition has results every time. Think about your cable and power bills, especially telephone and cable. There was never competition. It was like, we're the cable company and we're the phone company and you are the bitch and you'll do what we say or whatever. You know, be home for the day. We'll show up at some point, whenever. We're not going to abide by your rules of appointments and shit. One of our technicians will get around to you between, these hours. That's the school system. And we got these teachers unions and all this shit. We need to get rid of all of that shit. Now, if you're a really good teacher, you have no problems in this situation. You're going to fucking excel. You're going to get paid way more. Schools will be fucking begging for you, right? Because if you can produce results in the classroom, that's all that's going to fucking matter, is getting those kids to fucking pass the tests and comprehend the material. That's it. You succeed at that shit, then you're going to do well. If you're a fucking mean, evil person who's just cranky all the time, you're not going to do well. If you go in there and you hate your job every day, you're not going to have it. Unless you produce results, I guess. Kids all pass, whatever, and aren't coming out weirdos, right? Because we don't just want our kids to pass and comprehend the world and math and science and reading. But we also want them to be rational, understand logic, and the difference between common knowledge and common sense. Right? Common sense looks at a snake on the ground and says, I'm not gonna fuck with that, whatever it is. I don't know what that is, but it looks, its tail's making a funny noise, it's hissing at me, and it's curled up like it's gonna fucking pounce. I'm just gonna stay away. Common knowledge says, oh, look, there's a rattlesnake. I'm not gonna touch that thing. It'll bite you and it's got poison and blah, blah, blah. All this knowledge that everybody knows about rattlesnakes. And you'd know that by the rattle. But that's not, or that's the difference between those two terms. And common sense is dying, yet alone common knowledge. Common knowledge is pretty well, it's not dead, it's just different. Common knowledge has just changed over time with as our technology grows. The common knowledge is now making an HTML page or whatever on the internet, whereas common knowledge before would have been making a campfire or shooting a bow and arrow. It's changed, but there's still common knowledge. It's just different common knowledge. But common sense is dying out. People are just stupid. Oh, look, there's a Tide Pod. I'm going to eat that. Oh, look, there's a fucking snake. I'm going to go and fucking play with it. Oh, look, there's a shark. I'm going to jump in the fucking water with it. Just dumb. Anyways, guys, God bless you. Thanks for listening. I hope you stuck around for the whole rant. 2 more weeks till Hawaii time. I can't wait. I hope you subscribed and that you watch again. And I can't wait to be more entertaining coming at you from beautiful Hawaii and getting the boat ready and doing the adventures. I think we'll have a wonderful time. So stick around. Have a good one day. Have a good day, guys.